Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this broadcast, or listen to this presentation rather, as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the diminishing and declining number of newly created skilled jobs. When I say skilled, I don't mean painting nails in a nail salon or sweeping the floor or washing dishes. I mean actual skills, and how few of these skilled jobs are being created, but how the vast number of new jobs, and I'm talking vast upon vast, of new jobs created in the West, low paid, low skilled jobs. And because of the heavily depressive influences the globalists are forcing on the Western economies, these jobs pay roughly between a half and a third of what's necessary just to get by. So we're talking the amount of working poor. There's people that are working full time, who still can only live communally. They can't afford to live any other way. And the explosion in jobs, all the new jobs being created are in this communal peasant wage, peasant job category. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. But I just wanted to, and I'm using Australia as an example, but it could apply equally, I'm sure it does apply equally, pretty much all over the Western world. So let me, now this is a year ago here in Australia, but bear in mind at this time, the government is screaming that there's a shortage of skilled people in Australia. The jobs are skills. They just can't be filled. There's just no one to do the jobs for the skill. This is scientists, it's rocket scientists, it's mining engineers, civil engineers, aeronautical engineers, the really skilled jobs. There's just nobody in Australia to do it. It's the only place that you can go to find these highly skilled, experienced people is in third world peasant economies. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? So let's have a look at the number of jobs. Now, suppose these are the number of new jobs. Now, it's a little bit unclear how much of this is actually a new job, or how many of these jobs are, somebody quits and they need to replace it. So it's a little bit unclear. And I suspect it's a blend of both. Nonetheless, let's look at the numbers. Now, bear in mind that Australia is now bringing in 500,000 migrants a year. So, and the shock it's having on the system is manifest and sticking out like a sore thumb. But say mining. Now, mining's a big sector in Australia. This is a huge sector. So it employs a lot of people. And out of 13 million or something plus jobs or workers that are in Australia, how many of this? And this is supposed to be chronic shortages. I mean, like, wow, we're really short of these people. How many of these jobs were created in a 12-month period? Now, this is 12 months financial year Australia, as I understand. So this is June 23 to June 24, I think this is the period. 20,000, just over 20,000 new jobs, just 20,000 new jobs were being created. Now, if you look at the amount of people that apply for jobs in mining, they number in the hundreds, multiple hundreds for every job. So there's no, the idea that there's a shortage of mining jobs. Now, some of these mining jobs are in the remote areas, so you're in the middle of nowhere. You're 500 miles from the nearest town, let alone the nearest city. Australia's a big place. It's called the Pilbara, as an example, the Pilbara region or the Bowen Basin. There's a very, very small scattered population across a vast area, and I've been to these places where if you go to the highest point you can find, and you look at, you can't see anything. All you can see is red scrub dirt and scrub trees and so on for as far as the eye can see. So and you live in little tiny compact chalets, and you get your own, or most certainly the ones I've been to anyway, you get your own chalet, but it's, you have to turn sideways to go anywhere. It's a tiny place, and just enough room for a bed and like a shower and a toilet and a basin and a small, like a wardrobe for hanging up the clothes and so on. But that's it. And then you're provided with very ordinary, low quality food, which everyone seems to get stomach intestinal problems from. So I'm not sure about the hygiene of the food, as I did. I spent more time running to the restroom than I did doing anything else. That's not a desirable sort of job, and the rosters are quite long. You can have a 20-day roster, and then you get 7 days off, and you're having to, not that you work, but you have to attend the office, if you will. This is like a demountable cubicle. You have to attend the office 12 to 14 hours a day for 20 days straight, and then you get 7 days off. So it's not everyone's cup of tea. You're reasonably well compensated for it, but nonetheless, it's a tough gig. And if you've got, say, a family with young children, maybe that would be undesirable. But anyway, that's but the supposedly 20,000, just over 20,000 new jobs were created in this sector in that 12-month period. Now, given the many tens of thousands of people available to do that work, and this is supposedly the skilled stuff. This is not the people that, the floor cleaners or something like that, or the people doing the cooking the bacon and eggs in the morning. I think it's not them. This is supposedly the skill, the engineers, the mining engineers, these sort of things. Now, one of the interesting things about this is when they're looking at employing a white person, the standards are very high. You've got to have like a Western degree from a white Western country, say mining, for example, and civil engineering, and you've got to have certain years' experience, at a big mine or that sort of stuff. But when they're looking at a non-white person, suddenly those standards all disappear. You can, if you've got no experience at all, who cares? If you've if you've got some degrees from some third world University of Ouagadougou, then that's okay. And so that the standards applied to bring in migrant labour are much lower than if they're hiring local people. Nonetheless, the amount of people applying for jobs in this area far exceeds the amount of vacancies and again, there are multiple hundreds of applications for each job, but only 20,000, according to this at least, just over 20,000 new jobs were created in what's supposed to be the booming of the booming sectors that has this massive demand for skilled labour. But if it does, why is it not generating jobs? And if it's not generating jobs, why is mass migration needed to fill these jobs? And the people that are employed there are hired through labour hire scam companies, often run by Indians and people from the subcontinent or China. So these labour hire scams are just wall-to-wall scams, bringing people in under false pretenses. Oh, we couldn't find the skilled labour we needed locally, so we had to bring in all these illiterate peasants from the third world to fill these roles. So okay. Well, the next category that's also touted as being, this is like computer programmers and this sort of thing, and what are called high-end technical services. So skilled technicians, I suppose that would. Now, again, this is an area where there's supposed to be chronic shortages of skills. the companies in Australia, the businesses in Australia, we just can't find anybody. We advertise for 100 million years and still we don't get a single application. That's a lie, an absolute lie. Again, the amount of, even in remote areas in the middle of nowhere, they're still getting, 30, 40, 50 applicants for these sort of jobs. And then again, in the cities, the applications are measured in the multiple hundreds. So how many jobs in this supposedly area of chronic skill shortages, how many jobs in 12 months did the entire Australian economy generate? 17,000. That was it. 17,000 jobs were created, according to these statistics at least. Now, over the same time, various other sectors that also have skilled labour, sheet metal workers, lathe operators, drill press operators, and all that sort of stuff. Various other sectors were shedding between 20 and 40,000 jobs each, manufacturing as an example. So low skilled jobs, say people working in nursing homes or, floor cleaners, burger flippers, people to paint nails, dishwashers, delivery drivers, those sorts of things. They made up more than 3/4 of all the new jobs that were generated. Now, again, most of these people are being hired, people working in cafes and so on. Most of these people are being hired through labour hire firms. And if you look at the total number of jobs, new jobs created in Australia over that time, give or take, 450,000. And again, I'm not too sure of the churn number of churn jobs, and people leaving, someone new's hired, that sort of thing. So it's a bit unclear on that. But of all the new jobs created, more than 3/4, handsomely more than, in fact, low 80%, all these low-paid delivery driver, dishwasher, floor cleaner, work in cafe, cut sandwiches, those type of jobs. And these jobs are overwhelmingly given to, third world illiterate peasants. And why are so many illiterate peasants from third world being brought in to do these jobs? Why is the only growth area of jobs in the low skilled area? Australia is meant to be a high-end first world country. Now, for first world country, in terms of alleged per capita income and so on, Australia is in the top 10. So why is a first world economy unable to create high skilled, high knowledge, intellectual property type jobs, or to produce them in such tiny numbers, and to falsely and outrageously claim there's a shortage of skills in the first world country that has, Australia supposedly has, and I think this is a bit of a joke given the diversity, equity, inclusion, and affirmative action, but Australia supposedly has a high standard of education. not the people that I'm interviewing. They haven't been through that high standard of education. But anyway, this is all the ones I'm meeting in business. But if I look at the best paid jobs in Australia that are listed on the job boards, if I look at those, then the majority of those jobs, and again 3/4 plus, the majority of those jobs are government jobs, working for quangos, working for the public service, working for NGOs. NGO jobs now pay very, very well. They used to pay, charities and NGOs used to be the worst paying jobs. Now they're the best paying jobs. And jobs in the private sector, not only as in the best paid jobs, not only are they few or far between, but they don't pay as well as the government jobs. So someone in charge of a large manufacturing operation will be paid half of what a NGO worker would pay. there's a job where you're embedded in the university campuses for the sole purpose of rustling up a mob of placard wavers at short notice. That job pays more money than someone, a senior manufacturing company executive. I mean, that gives you an idea of how value and intrinsic value in particular has been squeezed out of all employment. If you're an activist, placard waving activist organizer, you get paid more than someone in charge of a large factory, making useful products. That's how insane things are now. But coming back to this thing, a first world country is unable now to produce a meaningful number of high-skilled and thus well-paid jobs. And at the same time, they're screaming and crying that they can't hire local people because there's nobody available to do or who wants those jobs. That's a lie. It's a flat-out lie. And yet I don't see any signs of this subject being discussed, let alone being pushed back against. You've been with Tassus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.